I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Visitor Network TV and Channel 99. For a number of years, students from Worcester Polytechnic Institute have come to Nantucket and worked on various projects during the fall term. And we are very fortunate to have two of those students with us today. Sandra Garcia-Fine and Daniel Macaro have been here and are wrapping up your experience, are you not? In fact, what did you do today before you came here?
Well, we just got out of our final project presentations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And who was there? Was it a good cross-section of people from the town? And
oh, yeah.
So
all the different sponsors for each project were there. So
good. Well, tell me a little bit how this whole, did you call it Nantucket Semester or Nantucket Term or Nantucket Experience or a Nantucket Party or what?
Term, Project Center.
Project Center, probably, yeah.
How do you, you have to sign up for it? Do you have to be accepted or is it
Yes.
pretty much, and presumably you come from different academic disciplines. What's yours, Sandra?
I'm civil engineering.
Oh,
Yes.
and yours?
Physics.
Physics. Ah, that's
Very
interesting.
different.
They are very different. Well, they're not that different. I mean, you need a little physics in civil
And
engineering. I don't know if you need civil engineering and physics, but you certainly need it the other way around. What year are you?
Both juniors.
Both juniors. Are everybody on the who's here a junior?
Yep, everyone on the project is junior.
And so you come. What happens, I guess, is you come here and you get assigned a particular project, or do you have any say in which one you're going to work on?
Well, after the whole interview process, when you pick where you want to go for your project center, so we both chose Nantucket, you get to basically state your preference through a series of different projects, and then the school sort of assigns it based on that. So it's a little bit pick a preference and a little bit,
Chance.
yeah.
All right. Well, tell me, Sandra, what was the project you were working on?
I was working on enhancing the Wheels, Heels, and Pedals website. So this website was made in 2003 by a group of organizations on Nantucket trying to promote non-automobile modes of transportation. And the website wasn't updated, or it was updated last in 2008, so it has become outdated. And so our project was basically making a prototype of a new website that would use new and interactive technology.
Is this primarily for bicycling, or is it for,
Primarily, yeah, that's mostly what we focused on.
So what could I expect to find if I went? Is the new website up?
No, but they're hoping to make it open for the next summer season.
And what would I find if I went to it?
Well, basically it splits up the website into Wheels, Heels, and Pedals. So Wheels would be the public transportation on the island, like the wave, the bus, and then Heels would be walking, and then Pedals is the biking, which is what we mainly focused on. And the main thing on our prototype of the website was incorporating interactive maps, so allowing users of the website to customize the different trails on Nantucket.
So sort of to be able to plot out a day's ride. Did you? Who did you get input from for this, or did you pretty much come up with it yourselves?
Well, our sponsors were Rachel Hobart of Reman Nantucket, and then Mike Burns, who works for the town of Nantucket Transportation Planning. And they had some ideas of what they wanted to incorporate, and we took their ideas and put them into a prototype.
There's a fellow here who runs bike tours. Did you talk to him?
Yes, yeah. Jason Bridges. We definitely talked to him a lot, and also Harvey Young and Noah Lerner at Young's Bicycle Shop.
What the public transportation side of it, is that primarily schedules?
Yeah.
And that sort of thing?
And bus routes.
Bus routes and the schedules for the buses. Does it have? There is a iPhone app. Is that Translock or whatever it's called? Is that going to be incorporated into the website as well?
Probably not. That's probably going to be separate for NRTA. Yeah.
And then what about the walking? How comprehensive is that? Because that, in a sense, has the greatest number of options.
Yeah. So definitely in downtown, there's a lot to do that you can walk to. So on the website, we have a map that shows different options you can click. So you can click museums or restaurants. And when you do that, it will highlight the different museums or restaurants on the map that people could walk to through downtown.
All right. What about hiking? Or you didn't get into
Hiking, yes, and then we had another separate drop-down menu that highlighted the different walking trails on the Nantucket Conservation Foundation and then the land bank land.
So it is very comprehensive.
Yes, there's a lot of information.
Did you talk at all about how you get information out there about the website?
Yeah, another part of our project was marketing the new website, because right now not a lot of people know about it, and I think one of the things that makes it not as popular is the name, even though it is pretty clever, Wheels, Heels, and Pedals. When people search for it on Google, they don't necessarily search for wheels or heels. And
Or pedals, or even pedals.
Or even pedals. So part of our recommendations was making tags on the website. So when you search for it through Google, you say biking on Nantucket, then our website would come up. So.
You should talk to this man over here behind the camera about this too.
Yeah.
We'll start with this. Get started.
Daniel, tell me about your project in monitoring Nantucket Harbor.
Well, yeah, as you said, it's called Monitoring Nantucket Harbor, and well, coming into the project, what everyone wanted was just to get a better idea of what data is available on Nantucket regarding water quality in general, and through just a series of discussions with various researchers, we were able to narrow the scope of that down to dealing with nitrates specifically in Nantucket Harbor. And just we wanted to compose or gather an idea of, again, what data is available and how it's being recorded and through what methods and how frequently, and then get a sense of what that really shows people and communicate that to the public and researchers.
Is this going to be a continuing? I mean, is this going to be a project that's updated so that it doesn't become static with what you put together?
Yeah, well, dealing with data on water quality is really a very, very large project. So a lot of what we did was to sort of get together a process with which other project groups could then do a similar study on other factors regarding water quality and hopefully do the same thing. And eventually, after a series of these projects, there would be a central database involving all sorts of factors about water quality all around the island.
The nitrogen loading is the sort of the key off which everything else works, right? Isn't that pretty much the case?
Yeah, it's a big ticket item. Specifically, we looked at nitrates, which is a form of nitrogen that is a big ticket item in the town, coming from fertilizers, septic, and sewage, and so that was the focus of a lot of our research.
How about the nitrates that come from the rain?
Well, that's one of the things we had to account for in looking at the data, because again, with infrequent data sampling, you run into the issue that if there's a heavy rainfall one day and they take a data sample that day, it could skew the trend over time. So that's one of the things we need to take into account when making recommendations.
So how often should the water be sampled?
Well, right now it's taken far frequently during the busier months, generally between April and September, and usually taken once every few weeks. But in order to get a really clear idea of where the water is moving or where the nutrients in the water are moving, you need to take it far more frequently. And so one of the recommendations we made is that there is a town biologist who specifically focuses on marine biology hired by the town of Nantucket.
Did you get to meet her?
No, this is purely a recommendation that we made, that they have some...
Oh, there's someone else besides the shellfish biologist.
Right, no, this is one specifically on water quality who can then go out and gather data from different parts of the harbor every day and hopefully get a better picture of what's really going on.
It's going to take a rugged individualist to do that a good part of the year.
And with a lot of time.
So how many different water samples do you need to take around the harbor?
Well, right now the Department of Natural Resources has 8 sampling stations that they've been using. I believe since around 2010 they've been using all 8. Before that there were 6. And we think that that's a pretty good amount of actual stations, because again, you can't take too many, because then you run into the issue of taking samples in people's backyards and political issues like that. So really the issue comes with taking more frequent samples of data, so you can really see, like if there's rainfall one day, well, if you have a sample the very next day, you can clearly see that that concentration would go down, and so you can attribute that to the factors that are necessary.
Did you get involved in Nantucket Harbor at all, or just the main harbor?
No, our focus remained just with Nantucket Harbor, and there was plenty of resources available on that to keep us busy for the duration of our project.
So where do you see this going? Where do you see, so what is the game plan with in moving the project forward? Do you have any sense of that?
Well, one of our conclusions was that we theoretically took out all of the nitrates that people could be putting into the harbor, just to see what effect that would have in making the harbor safe or sustainable. And through reducing the entirety of those nitrate concentrations, we were able to show that it would definitely have a good effect. And so the next step would be to then do some sort of feasibility assessment in which someone goes and analyzes what realistically people could reduce from those nitrates. So what maybe having good fertilizer practices or getting your septic systems inspected could do to affect that concentration.
Well, as you know, the town has had a big push on septic system inspections. Whether it's been successful is another question, but I think it's going to be, it may be hard to convince people that they haven't done enough already when a lot of people have spent a lot of money on a new septic system. So it's going to be an interesting challenge for the people who have to implement it.
Well, hopefully in reading our report, they might be a little bit more pushed to do so.
The fertilizer issue is a tough one too. As you know, there was a group here that studied, a work group that put together a game plan on fertilizer. And somebody has to have the political will. All these things require political will in order to implement them. Bicycle trails, maybe not so much as septic systems and fertilizer. But what did you learn from the experience?
Well, we definitely learned that our part in the project is something that's very helpful to those who have that political push or political will to do something with data that's available. So really what we hope to do is be able to be that unbiased group that just gathers all this data and information and makes it publicly accessible, so anyone with that political agenda could then do with it as they please, but at least being as informed as they can be.
How about you?
Something I learned personally, I would say, is this definitely helped me with my future and real workforce. I learned what my personal qualities are in a group and in helping the
good,
project.
I hope.
Yeah, some good, some bad. And then one of the main things that really struck me when I came to the island was I was so used to, in Worcester at WPI, having a schedule and having certain things due at a certain time, and like someone telling me that you need to do this by this time. And when I came here, it was, you're free to, like, here's basically what we want, but it's up to you. And I think this definitely relates to the real workforce, and so it definitely helped me plan for that.
My next question was, what did you personally learn? What did you get out of this?
I kind of did that.
You've done that already. Is there anything else? How about the experience of being on Nantucket and sort of going from, when did you come? 1st of October?
Late October.
Late October?
The 26th, I think.
Yeah, so you've been here about almost 2 months, yeah. And you've sort of gone from reasonably nice to not so nice to somewhere in between. What is your impression of Nantucket at this point? Had you been here before?
I had never been here before. I bet it's a very different place during the summer.
That's true. But did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. What did you get out of it from a personal standpoint, the experience of being here?
From a personal standpoint, I learned a lot about the uses of good organization practices, because seeing just the way, first of all, data was collected on the island and shared between different people, it's important to have it all in one place where it can be accessible, and I sort of like to take that upon myself in terms of my own practices. And I actually went and bought I went to one of the bookstores and bought a little moleskin book to write all of my thoughts in on a day-to-day basis, so that's something that I found to be rather helpful.
Sort of a diary?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right now it's mostly about project stuff, but I feel like if I keep the practice up, it might be something that ends up being kind of actually interesting.
You can probably blog it.
There you go.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming and sharing the experience with us. Sandra Garcia-Fine and Daniel McCarroll from Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Thank you, and good luck to you as your studies go forward.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
very
us.
much.
And thank you for your contribution to Nantucket.